Hi, everyone. We are back with another episode of With Love Soleil. So for today's theme, this is a conversation that I want to be ongoing on this channel, and I encourage all of you to jump in. And, I think this is a major component of self-mastery, of walking the conscious path, so to speak, and that is this idea of using the world as your mirror, not only using the world as your mirror, but actually realizing that the world is your mirror, that life is always giving you the experiences and the people and the themes and the opportunities to grow and evolve and better understand yourself. And, I think fundamentally the path, the journey of life is so much designed to master yourself. Like life is always guiding us in certain directions that are going to facilitate and expedite the revelation of who you are, the actualization of who you are, and it's going to encourage you to master and to become and to polish and to sharpen you as a human being and a spirit and a soul. And so if you think about it from that perspective, and if you're then go out into life and actually relate to life from that angle, you see things completely different, and I think that instead of I posted something once that, the conscious person sees life as their mirror, and therefore when they see themselves in all things, they take the moment to kind of process or discern what the mirror is showing them about themselves. That the unconscious person, though, attacks the mirror because they don't realize that they're looking into a mirror. And I think there's a big differentiation right there between how people relate to their lives. I think when you really take on the mission of self-mastery, you say, okay, I'm going to use everything in my life to better myself, to become more of who I am, to figure out who I really am under the layers of who I am not, under the unlearning and the recreation that has to happen to kind of figure out who you are on a more sort of soul or spiritual level, to come to reverse engineer yourself from the indoctrination and the other ways that, life or the matrix or the world that we live in, society sort of shapes and forms us, conforms us into who we are not, and then returning back to self. And so the commitment then, once you really commit to self-mastery, really commit to walking the awakened path, walking the conscious path, then you use everything that life brings you. And I emphasize everything because it's easy to bypass like the hardships or the challenges or, any other aspect that maybe doesn't feel so comfortable. It's nice to like use all the good times to like, yeah, this is great. This is my mirror. I'm like a good person. So life's bringing me goodness, right? Like we have that direct affiliation with goodness. But what we struggle with, and what's hard, of course, naturally, is when life brings us challenges or when hardships happen or even devastation or tragedy. And, we can often fall into, and I had to be very aware of this for myself, sort of a victim mentality. We fall into like, this is happening to me. We took that whole like life's happening for me goes totally out the window. And suddenly we've become a victim to our circumstances, and it's going to happen. That's like, so just a part of being human, it's okay. In fact, I give myself that grace. Sometimes I'll have my victim moments and I'm totally aware that I'm in that space, and I just let myself be there for as long as I need to be there so I can cry about it and do like what I need to do, feel bad for myself for a second, kind of baby me, because I need that at times. And then I pick myself back up and start to see like, okay, why did this happen? What is this bringing forward from me? What is this asking from me? Where am I being asked to grow? And I kind of set myself above it instead of being underneath it. So, I think that if you really are about the life of self-mastery and awakening and becoming a conscious person and becoming your highest self, then yes, you are going to use the world as your mirror. You're going to use people as your mirror. I think people are another major challenge on this because we have such a framework that we really feel the need to make some people good and some people bad. And in all of our stories, there will be some people who are good and some people who are bad. We all have our villains and we all have our heroes. And, if you scale back from that and even just look at your own life, for you yourself, to some people you're the hero, and to others surely you're the villain. And it's the same you showing up in the same ways, and their interpretation, their storyline around who you are and what you represent to them and their specific unique situation is going to decide you as the hero or you as the villain. And it will have very little to do with you, right? And so that's where you can start to kind of see that we're all in a way playing our role. And so when we start to look at the world as your mirror from the angle of other people, over time, you see how they're playing their role. Even the villains, even the bad people, even the ones that you're most mad at, or, you know, that you hold these major shoulds over, or that they hurt you. And again, it's never to undermine the fact that people will hurt us. Absolutely, 100%. We will have negative experiences with people. People will do absolutely insane, crazy things that we would never agree with, and maybe are actually on some level bad, right? I'm not acting like there's no good and there's no bad. However, on the one hand, you have to let yourself go through that whole experience with them. And I'm using people as an example right now because I think people are such a powerful representation of the point I'm trying to get across. And so we have people, and I'll even narrow it down even closer to maybe even family. Many of us have at least one family member who we sort of put in the box of, you are my dad, mom, sister, whomever, and therefore you should fulfill a certain role. And what family shows us is that the should of what we think that they should fulfill, the role that we think that they should fulfill, is not often the role that they're actually meant to fulfill. And that's where this whole conversation really comes in, because when we have expectations, when we have preconceived notions about who someone is supposed to be in our lives and how that then is supposed to look, how a parent should love their child, or a sibling should love their sibling, or a cousin, or whomever else, you know, whoever you might grow up with, or these longer standing relationships that I'll even say, you know, kind of Disney has said, yeah, the mother's love looks like this, or siblings and sisters should be besties, right? We have all these sort of preconceived notions. I'm blaming Disney. I don't know where this comes from. Maybe in an ideal world, maybe, although where I'm going with this is that these folks are written in, you know. Many people believe, and I would say that I do believe, that we choose specifically our parents, siblings, and, you know, sort of extended family, if nothing else, are written in to play the role that we need them to play. And it takes a long time to take that on, especially when you have felt hurt by a parent or a sibling or a close family member, or, you know, if there's even some form of abuse or something. Like, this is never to undermine the severity that these of harm and trauma that these relationships can cause. And I am a full advocate for going through the full process of experience and healing and everything else that you need to do to make peace on your end with what has happened. But what happens then over time, and what I would say, is to keep going through the experience and the healing and the other layers of, you know, your relationship or your bond with this person until you feel liberated by them. Go through the whole process until you feel liberated by them. That's so key, because it is oftentimes the people we're most mad at, that we feel like they wronged us the most, that actually hold the keys and the codes, that they played their role perfectly. They executed their contract with us to the T in what we asked them to do for us to become who we're here to become. And it's a lot to take on. And I get it, because I have had my own dynamics with family members that I had to do this whole process with. And I most definitely wanted to stay in the phase of, like, they did this to me and they're the bad guy and I'm the good guy and I'm healing from them, or I'm, you know, whatever made me feel sort of good about it. And I stayed there for a long time, and it was okay for me. Like, I'm not against that. I think we have phases of growth in relationships, especially long-standing relationships, familial relationships, because that's how the contract was written. Do you know what I mean? Like, that we came in with a contract with this person that they were going to teach us something, or they were going to build out a strength that we came in with as a weakness. And their only role was to do that. And so instead of seeing it as they harmed us, and so they're always the bad guy. And again, it doesn't even mean that you have to reconcile with these folks, because for some relationships and people in your life, there simply is not reconciliation to be had with them, but there is reconciliation to be had within yourself. Because when you heal yourself, your end of the bond, even if it's just right to that midpoint where they can do whatever they want with their side of the bond, there's full liberation. It's like they don't have power over you. When you hear their name, you don't cringe. You're not having like a visceral response anymore to what has happened. And it takes time. I fully, I'm not acting like this is easy work. This is, when you're really talking about self-mastery, though, self-mastery is not easy work. It's sitting in the fire of repairing yourself on a soul level, wherein virtually nothing has power over you. And these are the types of things that do have the most power sometimes. If a person's name alone can make you cringe or bring up some sort of visceral response, there's a power there that they have. And so the work then is it's for you just as much as it is for anybody else, right? We talk about like finding forgiveness, moving through that to find liberation. And if you're going to forgive someone, you're doing it just as much for yourself as you are for the bond and for them. They may not even know you've forgiven them, but you found the forgiveness wherein you're saying that I don't hold animosity or negative energy or low vibrational energies towards this person anymore. So they no longer affect my reality. I've freed myself of the confines of our misalignment. So this is the whole conversation around using the world as your mirror. And we're going to just stick with relationships today because I feel like it's such a thick part of this work. But what I encourage you to do is really start to review the people you're mad at. Start there. You could start with the people you love too. It's good. And they, of course, provide some of the most divine, wonderful lessons of all. But for me personally, having healed the relationship with the people that I, in my mind and storyline, were like my villains, set me the most free. It really set me the most free. In fact, at this point, anybody that I have felt that way towards along my path, I feel almost the deepest gratitude towards, because I see now why we signed up for this. And I see what they did for me on a soul level to bring forward more of me. Because if I'm the victim to that dynamic, then my strength is just waiting to be remembered. If they've caused me harm, or if they've brought me down from myself, or, whatever ways that I have felt like they did me wrong, then the work is for me to triumph over my having been brought down. And so then I not only come back to my baseline, but I'm now higher than that as a result of having worked myself through what happened. So this is deep work. It's heavy work. There's a lot of layers to it. I can't even do it justice in how this work totally is done, even in one short video. But what you can start to do is look at it. And as soon as you even open your heart to say, okay, we're looking at the villains here, we're looking at the people we think are the bad guys, I'm at least going to look at it. And let me just see where they brought me more of myself. Let me just see where they're asking me to become more powerful, to step more in my power. And slowly but surely, you'll start to see what role they really played. When you take off the expectations of parent or sibling or bestie or whoever, or how they should have shown up for you, any preconceived notions, when you let that go from them, when you free them from that, then you can just look at them as the person. Especially if you're doing this with family members, I even encourage you to kind of, when you look at them from this angle, think of them as just their first name, not even like dad, mom, sister, brother, cousin, whomever. Like, take off that title for a second, because that title comes with such expectations, such preconceived notions. Take that off and then look at it just as their first name. And then you start to see it a little bit differently. Because instead of the expectations that have been layered on them, you can see, okay, Amy actually was put in my life to make me stronger in my voice. And so I felt belittled by her. I felt quieted by Amy. I felt, I felt like I couldn't be in my full volume. And all because our agreement was that I was going to turn my volume up around people like Amy. And imagine shifting from that. Instead of like, Amy's the bad guy, I can't be myself around Amy, I feel small and be quieted. Instead of that, because there will be plenty of Amy's, right? Amy's just playing a role. And if you don't fix it with Amy, then here's going to come, whoever else behind Amy in the same in a different costume, but same theme, where you feel quieted and turned down and small because they're around. So we're addressing things at the core, because these are the lessons that life is going to continue to feed you until you learn them. So you can learn it with Amy, or you can learn it with the next person in a new costume, or the next in a new costume. It's up to you. But I have found it most valuable to address Amy herself. I don't know any Amy's, by the way, so I'm not like jabbing at anyone here. But I've done this work in my family, in any friendships, in any other types of relationships that I've felt harmed by, or whatever the case might be. And I went from victim to healing the part that they offered for me to heal, to victor, full, even more in my power. So look at it from this angle. This is not going to happen, and it might not happen in one day where you just decide like, I'm taking my power back, and your power just like reveals. It might not be that quick. Healing is a process. It's not linear even. It's not like just a quick like upward trajectory. Healing is like, but generally speaking, it's upward trending, because it's generally bringing you into more of yourself as you heal, even when you hit low points after you felt like you've made significant progress. Progress sometimes is having to sort of circle back to lower experiences, lower vibrational energies, to clear them out, because there's still some residual there. So release, again, your expectations around how this is going to look, how this is going to go, and commit to using people, especially as our first step here, as your mirror to become more of who you are, and move through all of it continuously and relentlessly, as hard as it can be, and I get it, until you feel liberated. That's when that's when you've really taken your power back. So sit with this. You can start in like a meditation practice, just sit in stillness, maybe whatever, a little meditation music, and call the person forward and just kind of imagine them in front of you, or imagine, maybe let yourself kind of process some of an experience with them, or whatever it is, maybe many experiences. If it's family, right there, these are long-standing bonds, and they get stale over time if we don't breathe life into them, even the ones that we do feel hurt by. So you can sit with it. You can start to kind of feel it, process things, let things come up, feel the discomfort, which will probably happen, because this is not like all rainbows and butterflies, as I say all the time. This is self-mastery though. So the reward might not even feel like it's coming in the moment, because it's just uncomfortable and you're like pissed at this person. The last thing you want to do is like forgive them at times. It might feel at best to just cut them off. They're dead to me. It's, and that's fine. You can cut off and dead people if you need to do that, but know that they're going to come back in another costume. So it's for you to nip the lesson. That's just saying, hey, I'm actually just trying to help you become more of yourself. See how that goes. Sit with them, see where it takes you. Notice then how you've made this commitment to repair this bond, or at least find your liberation, reclaim your power, and then life will give you little opportunities. So if it's going back to the Amy example, if it's someone that has made you feel small or quieted, then life will kind of serve you with little opportunities here and there to use your voice. So suddenly you're using your voice a little bit more, and then you can kind of come back to a meditation with Amy and start to imagine yourself having used your voice in the times where you felt quieted and small, whatever it is. It's like now you're kind of repairing, giving yourself that little repair, sort of imagining yourself in those experiences, what you maybe would have done differently. So you're sort of doing the little timeline collapsing, we call it, where you shift shift in your heart and your soul, how you would have done things at the time. So you collapse the timeline that was born from not having done those things. And then you empower your current self. Like there's so many levels to this, but meditation, I think, is a great place. Or, you know, I say meditation, really what I just mean is sitting in the energetics of the bond, feeling it all the way through. Feel it, let it be uncomfortable, find little moments of breakthrough, little moments of like, I see why you did that. There's so much power when you can use them as your mirror to see why they did something, what it was actually asking for from you. You have those little breakthrough moments, and over time you will heal. That's how that goes. If you stay committed, if you are really willing, over time you will heal. And as you go through and through and through and through, there will be a place where you feel liberation. And I say, and having done this in my family, I say that there was a point where I felt like I took a thorn out of my energy field, out of my soul, with a bond that I struggled with for a long time, when I felt that moment of liberation. And now I not only feel so much more in my power, so much more myself, so much more understanding of why they played the role that they played. I love them even more deeply. I'm even more thankful for them. Our bond has changed completely. Our relationship has changed completely. And they brought so much more of me forward. So let me know how this feels to you. I just gave you a lot. And again, it took me a very, very long time, many, many years to go through the whole process necessary. It was only recently that I pulled the thorn out. So give yourself patience, time, grace with this. This is not going to happen overnight. But as soon as you commit, as soon as you're willing to come out of being the victim to what happened and say, I'm willing to take my power back, it's like you've just flicked the first domino, because life has just been waiting. It's been waiting for you to decide, to commit to taking your power back. And from that moment on, it's going to give you every opportunity to do so. That's all I have for you guys today. Let me know what you think. Let me know if this is something that resonates with you, if you have any questions or you want me to go deeper into any specific thing in future videos or whatever else. I sincerely appreciate you for even just sitting through this video, but also just doing this work, for being on this path. Like, it's not easy to be on this path. That's why most people still are not. Most people do not forefront self-mastery, but those of us who do are building a new world just by doing our own work. So kudos to you if that's you. If you're brand new to this, welcome to a whole new way of doing things. And it's really an honor to be in this space with all of you. Thanks, guys.